Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. It's Paulie, Esther here, and today's Thursday, so there was a dev stream today, so I'm going to try and condense and digest all of that information for you here. The first thing they talked about was the G-Star event going on in South Korea, and if you were on Twitch last night, you may have seen that Dead by Daylight went live, and Mathieu was actually playing as the Trapper from South Korea, and he sneaked out what the exclusive is for that event. I correctly predicted that there would be an exclusive for this regional event in South Korea, but I was wrong about who it was for. I assumed that since Perk is the third most common last name in Korea, that it would be a Jake Park exclusive, but I was bamboozled. It was actually for David King, if you can imagine that. So Mathieu showed one of the cards for the exclusive, and he actually revealed the code for it by covering half of it one time. He showed it, and the other half the other time, and then he promptly tore the card up on stream. Sorry for the quality of this, but this was from their small face cam in the corner, which was even smaller than mine, so you can imagine him holding up the card, how tiny that was for me to get the screen grabs of that code. And so somebody, I presume, was able to enter in this code and activate it, so they have it. I know there's a few people who have it right now. I haven't actually seen what the cosmetic looks like in-game. I know the people who moderate the game have the code. Probably the devs have the code on their characters as well. But if you can't read that, what that actually says is David's Donkey Jacket. And if you're not familiar with what a donkey jacket is, it's a UK fashion item that it's actually a woolen jacket with leather reinforcements on the shoulders and the back and typically the elbows. We'll have to see what David's looks like in-game. Hopefully in a day or two we'll get a glimpse of what it looks like in-game. But that's what a donkey jacket is. So that's what the exclusive is. It's going to be a regional exclusive, just like the Golden Feng Min, that it's going to be crazy, insane prices on eBay, I'm sure. It's too bad. Please come to Toronto one of these years, you guys. And I want to get some codes. I want to get some exclusives. Let me get my bill with a Canadian flag beret. That'll never happen because they can't get the rights to change for Bill, but we can dream, can't we? So that's the exclusive. Then they went on to talk about some things that are going to be reworked in the game. They're talking about looking at all the maps and changing them and reworking palettes and bloodlust. Presumably the palette changes would be to prevent the game from just becoming a palette loop fest, which I think that would be interesting, and it would be an understatement to say that my game doesn't revolve around palette looping. It's not a skill that I personally have mastered, and I don't think that the game should just come down to palette looping. So if they rework maps and got rid of palettes, and at the same time they're talking about eliminating bloodlust, we'll have to see where that goes. That's interesting. Anyway, so let's get into the meat of what they actually talked about. That is confirmed patch that's coming for the Bloodweb, and then we'll go into the proposed changes for the Wraith. And so next they started into the slides, and so the first thing that is coming confirmed in the next patch is going to be the new Bloodweb with user interface improvement. I'm going to go into that in a little more depth in a minute. The Wraith update is coming soon. They're still tweaking things and play testing it to decide when it's going to be ready for us. I thought maybe it would be ready by the end of November, but it might take a bit longer than that. We're not sure. And then, as you can see here in green, there's another PTB coming. If you don't know what the PTB is, that's the public test build, where they allow all of us to go onto another server for a new version of the game and to test it out. And it's going to be the emblem system, which they were previously calling the badges. These are the victory conditions for the survivors. We had a PTB about 6 months ago now, which I think was for the victory cube for the killers, if I believe, along with some other changes. Exhaustion and the hooks not repairing and things like that. Or the hooks repairing themselves was in that PTB, if I remember right. It's been about 6 months since they had that. So I'm looking forward to playing in that again. But that's just a test area. So if you do decide to go into that, you won't earn points. It's just for you to get a feel for the new system, and they can gather data about how the players play the game within that system and how it works. I enjoyed playing the PTB 6 months ago. I will enjoy playing the PTB again. I'll be doing that. This is only going to be for Steam users, and they'll tell you how to do it when it comes along. It's been greenlit. It's confirmed it's coming, but we don't know when. And it basically just means you going into Steam and changing the version of your game with a code, and it'll download the new version. You can play the PTB, and then you can revert back whenever you want to when you're done with the testing process. Okay, and then after the PTB, the testing of the emblems, that'll get rolled out once they figure out what they want to do with it. And then we have the winter event coming for the community, just as we had the Halloween atmospheric event. We're going to have a winter event, so that's going to be cool. I can't wait to see what they do with that. Next slide. Let's see here. Loss of progress. The thing that they implemented for loss of progress seems to be working, so they're going to roll it out for everyone on all platforms. Connect to online services was fixed. It was down for about 5 days for Survive with Friends. We couldn't get that to work. And apparently 3-man lobbies were bugged. You would never get your 4th person. And some of the save games were fixed as well. Okay, so now then they brought in Sarah and Thomas. Sarah is in charge of the user interface design, and Thomas is in charge of the economy of the game. So the way they're changing the Bloodweb is they want to make it faster for us, and they want to have set values for all of the items. So sometimes if you're looking at your web and you're like, well, why would I ever buy this murky reagent for 8,000 when I can buy one for 5,000? The items based on the rarity are always going to be the same cost now, no matter what ring of the web they appear on. So you can't really game the system anymore. A brand new part is always going to be the same price, etc., etc. From web to web, and on the same web. They're always going to be the same price based on rarity. And the prices are going to range from 3,000 to 7,000. There's no 8,000 items anymore. And let's see here. So they've reduced the time it takes you to buy stuff on the web by about 60%. They've cut it down from a half a second to 0.2 of a second, so you can get through your Bloodweb much faster. And there aren't going to be any confirmations whether you want things or not anymore, unless it's a mystery box. And the entity is going to appear slower than the player as they take their nodes. Well, you take turns through the nodes, who's taking what. But in overall, it's going to be much, much faster to spend your blood points, so you're not sitting there for half hour on end just to get through points. So that's going to be a welcome improvement. And so part of the economy balance of the game is they made some items more rare than they were previously. The odd bulb and the anti-hemorrhagic syringe are now ultra rare instead of very rare. And the styptic agent and the sapphire lens are now very rare instead of rare. And for offerings, the murky reagent is now very rare instead of rare. And the bloody party streamers are now rare instead of common. Now this was the one that they went in the most depth on, to say that the party streamers were only supposed to be a temporary item, so it wasn't a problem for them to remain common. But once they decided to keep the party streamers forever, as far as game economy balance, they had to make them less common. So those are going to be rarer than ever. So maybe if you get them, save them for when there's blood point events, because you're not going to be finding the party streamers as much as you have been up to now. So they've also decided that all of the lighting bouquets, the new moon, darkest moon, bright moon, where all the lighting bouquets are being eliminated from the game. because they just want to basically set the lighting on the maps. If you ever saw how I brought the darkest moon into the Lorraine's treatment theater, it's so pitch black in there, it's ridiculous. So they want to just have consistent lighting on the maps. They want to be able to control it, so we aren't going to have any influence on the lighting anymore. So you won't see the moon bouquets in your Bloodwebs anymore. Any that you have will still work, so you can play them if you want once the patch comes out, but once they're gone, they're gone. You won't be getting them anymore. And then they also talked about how they're adjusting the daily rituals. They want you to be able to do these daily rituals in like one game. They don't want you to have a thing where you have to chainsaw 17 survivors and it's going to take you 4 or 5 games to do it, or blink attack 11 times, or phantasm hit 12 people with a hag trap. They want you to be able to do them in one game. No more 9 sabotage hooks. They want you to be able to complete them in one game. So you can see here that they have, well, maybe you can't see it. It's kind of small. If I blow it up. Can I blow this up any? Okay, so this says 4 attacks with the Wraith, or rescue 3 survivors with Bill, or escape and survive with Kate Denson. Did somebody say Kate Denson? Kate, where have you been? What is this Kate Denson here? Let me see this. The Awakening. Escape and survive one time with Kate Denson. So do you know who Kate Denson is? If you've watched my videos, you know who Kate Denson is. Kate Denson was the standalone survivor that I reported on that was in the data mining about 8 weeks ago now. And it was first explained to me that she was coming out as a standalone survivor around the time that Leatherface came out. And then as we got closer and closer to Freddy's release, opinion shifted that she was going to be the survivor who came out with Freddy, but she wasn't, so she just disappeared. Now, what does this mean that they have Kate Denson in this? They could be trolling us, or maybe she is actually coming. They have recorded all of her sounds. That was one of her sounds you just heard, her being put on the hook. They have about over 300 game sounds of Kate. I don't think they're going to throw all of those away. Maybe they will. Maybe we'll never see Kate Denson again. Maybe she will come out as a standalone survivor in the future, or alongside another original idea. I think it's very funny that they wrote Kate Denson into this, because it could be just a complete troll on us. Because if you remember way back, there was a person who had photoshopped their daily ritual to prove that Ghostface and Sidney Prescott were coming into the game, and the actor was supposed to be Ghostface alongside of Sidney Prescott. I did a video about this a long time ago, debunking this and saying that these were proven photoshops and they were not real, and this was no evidence that either of these characters were ever coming into the game. This was not evidence of that, because it was admitted Photoshop. So I think it's quite funny that now they've hit us with the same thing on their own with this Kate Denson. Oh, gosh, I hope she's coming. I feel like we've all prejudged this woman on her sound effects, and I just want her to come into the game. I don't want Quentin, I want Kate Denson. Anyway. Come on, Kate. I'm rooting for you, Kate. I hope you get into the game. And then we got down into the meat of the proposed Wraith buffs. Now, these are all tentative. They're still playing around with it. None of this is solidified, but these are the proposed changes for the Wraith. And actually, Not Queen, finger guns confirmed, has put up a post on Steam that she wants all of us to join in the discussion and say what we think about the changes, which I think is great. We talked last week about should they share information and not have, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, or should we all be able to have a voice and be part of the productive and constructive conversation for where the game is going. And it seems like they've chosen this route to share information and allow us to give them feedback on it. So I'm going to put a link in the description to the Steam discussion if you want to talk to the devs yourself about these changes and what you think about it. And I think that that's a really great approach that they've taken. I think Not Queen's been working for Behavior for roughly 6 months, and I have to say that I think it was a really good hire. I have a lot of respect for Not Queen, and I think she does a really good job of bridging the gap. She's the communications director, so I think she's doing her job, but I think she does a good job in bridging the gap between the player community and the people that create the game. So kudos to her. Okay, so she wrote out these slides here, and it says that the whoosh sound is no longer infinite across the map. It's going to have a set radius so that you can't hear the Wraith whooshing in and out of cloak and thinking, oh, he must be engaged with somebody else because I hear him decloaking and I don't have a heartbeat, so I'm fine. Just to put you a little bit more on edge and not be as aware of the proximity of the Wraith. So they want to set the radius of the whoosh to 56 meters. They may reduce it even further to 40. They're still playing around with this. All of this stuff is not settled, as I said. So the add-ons that affect the bell ringing sound will now affect the uncloak and cloak sound, so you can reduce the radius of the whoosh by either 8 or 16 meters respectively with those add-ons. The bell ringing is going to be a set radius that cannot be affected by the add-ons. It's going to be a 24-meter radius all of the time. And the bell will announce when the Wraith is coming in and out of the spirit world. The Wraith can break pallets and open the lockers while cloaked. So that's going to be kind of Freddy-esque, pulling you out of a locker while cloaked. I'm going to have more floating people. It doesn't say, they didn't say today whether or not that the Wraith would be able to break generators while cloaked. I'm assuming he will be able to. If he can break pallets, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to also break generators, but we don't know for sure. And then the cloak speed, this says increased, but I think is decreased from 3 seconds to 1.5 seconds. And they want to allow you to get into that cloak a little bit faster and get on the chase. And then there's this speed curve applied that's going to change how fast the Wraith is while going into the cloak. And then eventually you're going to get up to the 110% of your speed is the going to be the movement speed for the Wraith. 110% while cloaked. So slide number 2. Is that right? 0.6. We up to 0.6? Yeah, okay. 0.6. So this one turned into like an algebra equation. 2 trains leave the station at the same time, but the Wraith is traveling at this speed, and the Survivor is traveling at this speed. So how long will it take for the Wraith to overcome the Survivor? Anyway, so this, you can read all this. It talks about how the Wraith's movement speed is going to be slowed, but it's going to be slowed in stages. So the uncloaking speed is going to remain 3 seconds, but they have this speed curve. So for the first second, he's going to move at 50% of his speed, and then it's going to get up to 90% of his speed eventually by the end of the uncloaking until it's completely uncloaked. Then this talks about how fast Survivor's movement is and how much distance a Wraith. Like I said, it turns into a big like algebra problem. I'll let you can just pause the video and read this stuff here. So what does this say? This means that a Wraith should actively be looking to uncloak undetected for the first second. Yeah, okay, does this talk about the bell? Yeah, he doesn't hit the bell until the end of the first second. So right now the way it works, he bangs the bell when he starts to uncloak. This is going to change with the new Wraith, where during the 3 seconds of uncloak, he's only going to bang the bell on after the first second of uncloaking. So if you're just listening for the audio cue of the bell, he's already uncloaked for a full second before you know it. So you have to watch for his shimmer and look for him. You have to look for the other keys that the Wraith is around you. So that's going to be an advantage for him. Even though he has that 50% movement speed slowdown for his first second, he isn't announcing his presence with the bell for the first second either. So that's kind of interesting. And next slide is, so the burnout time. It's going to take longer to burn a Wraith for a flashlight. You have to hit him with the flashlight for 1.5 seconds instead of 1 second. And then his burn time while he is burned is only going to last for 3 seconds instead of 4 seconds. So that's reduced. And then they talked about his spirit world vision. He's going to see blood and scratch marks more brightly. And they're still debating on whether the black and white mode would work for him, where once he was cloaked, if he would see the world in black and white. I think they said that was a disadvantage in some situations. So they're probably going to stay with the full color vision for spirit world when the Wraith is cloaked. But the blood and scratch marks will stand out more, and they showed us an idea of that, like how brilliant the blood would be while the Wraith was cloaked. It would just really stand out. And then for perk changes, so this Bloodhound perk, the blood will have the intensity of the spirit world vision. So if you're running Bloodhound, the blood is going to stand out whether you're in spirit world vision or not. Whether you're cloaked or uncloaked, you're going to be able to see the blood that brilliantly. And they're not changing the Predator perk, but they did talk about eventually, not with this Wraith cube, not with the Wraith buff, but down the way they have an idea on how they're going to fix scratch marks, which would be better for Predator down the road. Sloppy Butcher, it's going to make you bleed more, so you're going to see a lot more blood standing out brilliantly for the Wraith. And then the Shadowborn. So they're changing the Shadowborn so that if you're using Shadowborn, you aren't going to get blinded any faster, and it won't take you longer to recover from blindness. And so then they talked about this field of view change here. So it's going to be up to 15 meters more instead of Monitored Abuse is 8 for field of view. So the maximum of 15 meters wider of field of view while running Shadowborn. So that sounds like that's going to be a pretty decent perk for the Wraith. And then they talked about the flashlight changes. So flashlights are getting kind of a nerf for the insta-blinding and things. All of these items you see here, utility flashlight down to power bulb, intense halogen, all of these things are losing the ability to blind quicker or reveal quicker. So that flashlights are getting a bit of a nerf here, which I know a lot of people are not going to be happy with. So that's what I got for all of the Wraith stuff. What do you think about it? I have the link in the description if you don't want to talk about it here. If you want to talk straight to the development team, go on to Steam and let your voice be heard about the Wraith. Personally, I'm excited for him. I feel like he's... I mean, the statistics say he's a lower tier killer. He really needed this. And I look forward to playing him. Paulie playing killer confirmed? I don't know. And finally, they talked about some statistics involving Freddy since the nerf. So they took some data from November the 12th, which was the last day before the ranks completely reset, and they analyzed Freddy at rank 1 and rank 20, and on average. At rank 20, he's still the most lethal killer, but at rank 1, he's tied for second to last in lethality. So I believe he's tied with the Hag as the least lethal killer at rank 1. Only the Wraith is worse, and the Wraith buffs are coming, so he's going to get better. So at rank 1, Freddy is going to be tied for the worst killer. And on average, there are only 3 killers that are worse than he is across the board, rank 1 to rank 20, everything combined in one big melting pot. The only killers that are worse than Freddy on average are the Huntress, the Wraith, and the Nurse is the worst because at lower levels she's takes some mastering. So Wraith is going to get buffed. Presumably he's going to get better, so that would leave Freddy as the third worst on average. So I think he needs something. I'm going to show you this clip of an interesting situation.
Somebody get you immediately off, alright? Go, you know where to go, you know where to go. Heal him, heal him. He can't pick you up before healing you, Paulie. And he can't hit you because with the wake up and the healing merge is a new thing and it's now in the game, so you can't hit us, Freddy. We're out!
Poor Freddy. Poor Freddy. Poor Freddy, powerless. Poor Freddy just stands there powerless.
Nothing.
Yeah, so there you see, this situation happens all the time with every killer, but usually the killers can do something about it. When you are healing someone on the ground, the killer cannot pick them up, but they can usually smack you off of them, putting your life in danger if you stick around, which encourages you to leave. But since Freddy is going to take a while to put you to sleep before he could do anything, you can just stand there without threat of any punishment and complete the heal. Once you get that person up, they're awake, now everybody's awake, and you run out the door, and Freddy just stands there with his claws in his hands going, gosh, I wish I could do something to somebody. So I don't know what they're gonna do. That's a tricky situation for Freddy. The same thing as if Freddy is running a hex and he comes across somebody who is cleansing the hex. Generally, by the time he's able to put them to sleep, they will have completed cleansing of the hex totem, and then Freddy's just out of luck. So there are some situations where Freddy is hampered by not being able to interact with the environment right away. I don't know how you fix that. And then from a personal standpoint, at the end of the dev stream, Not Queen hung around and talked to us in the chat, finger guns confirmed, and I was saddened to hear that the toque that they showed off at New York City Comic-Con is not planned to be put in the Dead by Daylight store. But I'm like, I'm from Canada and my head gets cold and I need this toque I want to represent. Why can't we get this toque in the store? I need this knit hat to keep me warm in Canada. I was very sad to hear that. I was expecting that to show up in the merch store, and I really want it, but I wish I would have bought the one I saw on eBay now. But oh well, what can you do? Maybe one day it'll show up. But that's another thing. Why doesn't the game have a link to the merch store? Like if you play Don't Starve or some other games, like you can actually click in the game and get taken directly to the merch store. Don't you think that would be beneficial? I don't know. It's just me. Anyway, no hat for me. That's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Take care of one another. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.